who had died in Iraq. This is before the hot war, right? Just as a result of the sanctions. And she was asked, do you think it's worth it? And she said, yes. I said, 2 assistant UN Secretary Generals had called the sanctions regime genocidal and had quit because they were in charge of it. And then we asked him about policy toward Cuba. I asked him about racial profiling. Al Gore had promised it would be his first act in office to issue an executive order banning racial profiling. I said, you guys have been in office for 8 years. Why did you wait this long? And then I asked him about Ralph Nader. He was running for president, and I said, some people attribute his success to you because you've taken the Democratic Party to the right. Then he got mad. And he said, I find you hostile, combative, and at times disrespectful. So I said I just had a few more questions. And anyway, the conversation went on for about a half an hour, and then he said he had to go. So it was an interesting Latino music show that day. And the next morning, we ran it on Democracy Now! And after the show, now this was getting a lot of attention, right? So this is the day after Election Day. And I go into our offices and after the show, and I get a call from Newsday. They want to do a piece on this, how did this happen? And so the reporter's on the phone, but then I get another call. And this is when we had, wired phones. And so I said, just 1 minute. And I said, and they said White House. And I knew they said the White House, not Whitehurst. And I said, just a minute, please. So I said, listen, the White House. He said, just put the phone down. I'll listen. So I just put the phone down on the console. And I said, yes. And they said, you're going to be banned from the White House. I said, I am going to be banned? I said, he called me. I didn't call him. And they said, we told you, you broke all the ground rules. I said, ground rules? You called me 1 minute before the show. I hardly understood who you were. You agreed to ground rules that you broke. I agreed to nothing except we would pick up the phone if he called. They said, we told you that he wanted to talk about getting out the vote. And your questions, I think they said 1, 4, and 7 related to that, but not the other questions. I said, really? I asked 3 questions that he wanted to answer? That's very interesting. I said, it sounds like you have a transcript. Could you send it to us? Because we'd like to post it online. But, I said, how many, did he talk to other reporters yesterday morning? And they said, absolutely. I said, like, how many in New York? And he said, 40. He was calling around to radio stations. And they all just asked questions about getting out the vote. That's right. I said, well, that's a very sad comment on American journalism, that you decide what we'll ask, and these reporters just ask